typically are going to cut costs, postpone new investments, and it's the marketing expenditures that are often just slashed without giving much thought to it. I am so honored today to have with me my special friend. We've known each other, gosh, I don't know how many years of having the same coach. I want to a warm welcome for Jean Kuhn, business strategist, who is here to help us understand that we don't have to be spending a lot on marketing just because the economy is getting bad. And we can't let our businesses down, especially when the economy is going bad. And we're letting our clients and people down if we are not doing everything we can to help people to get out there and find new clients. So Jean, since 2006, you've been a successful business strategist because you've been helping all types of business. That's why I love you, Jean. You're endless to who you work with. You run the gamut, and that really comes from when you took two bankrupt businesses, not at the same time. They were bankrupt, and you created the profitable cash generating machines in under a year.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, Jean. And you were doing this with no list, no help, no training from the franchises that you were a part of. Oh, and you had no marketing budget. So, Jean,
I
help
was
us
glad you said that.
understand. I'm sorry. No marketing budget, so it can be done, really.
It
Tell
can.
me more.
Well, I'm happy to, Christine. Thanks so much for having me here. Listen, I was in my own recession at that point, right? I bought a bankrupt business. I took all the money I could afford, or I felt I could afford, out because we had just built our dream home, right? So I took every dollar I had left over and and bought a bankrupt business. And I literally had no list and no marketing budget to build that because I was afraid, like so many small business owners are, that I would lose everything, right? So, and honestly, 2 weeks in, I might have, right? 2 weeks in, I was sitting on an upside down milk crate in the kitchen. These were both the first one was a chocolate store, and crying my eyes out because I just felt I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. And then
Mm.
I realized I had to get up off my milk crate and go to work, right? I knew I had a plan and I wasn't working my plan in the back room crying, right?
Mm.
So I had to get up and I had to go to work. And, and within 12 months, I turned that business around, adding $100,000 to the bottom line.
Wow, wow, and you must have a fantastic imagination, uh, to be able to do that. Like you say, you weren't getting help from the franchises
Right.
either.
I know you think that, right? Everybody
Yeah,
thinks if I buy a franchise, they give me everything I need. Um,
yeah.
no, not necessarily. And our and they didn't honestly. I made every mistake. Let's just say this: I made every mistake possible buying that franchise because the guy who was selling it told me if I didn't buy it before the franchise approved me, he
Mm,
would cancel the deal and move the store. Right?
mm,
So I was afraid. No, I was too naive to even know that he had a lease in place, right?
mm.
So I, I, really I made every mistake. So I had to learn a lot about retail. I've never worked retail before, but in order to turn those around, you're right, I had to get really creative, but I went into it with the one attitude, and it was, if it's not fun, I'm not doing it. It was a chocolate store. Doesn't that seem like it should be fun? Right?
Mhm.
If you own
Yeah.
a chocolate store, everybody wants to come in, everybody wants to sample, everybody's happy, nobody's bitching about anything, right? And I just decided to make it really, really fun. So that's really what I did with my marketing,
Wow.
because it was that laugh about the marketing and have fun with it or cry about it, right?
Yeah, crying, where does that get you? It gets you nowhere. Yeah,
It
yeah.
got me a snotty nose and, right? So that's what it got me.
But then you turned all of that knowledge that you gained in your own business into helping other franchises, isn't that correct?
That's correct. I started holding a 2-day conference for my fellow franchisees. in
Ah,
2000 well, in 2006, it was a one evening, and then that was for the Chicagoland people, and then the following year, other franchises said, "If you ever do this again, we'd like to be included." So I did one the following year, and we had people come from all over the country, franchises come from all over the country to attend this conference to help them build a business and turn theirs around like I was doing, because everything I was doing at that point was low cost or no cost.
mm,
I didn't have a choice. Honestly, the business wasn't making enough money to start with. While I was turning around, I was investing all the profits back in it.
mhm.
So I had to do something. I had to absolutely do it, and I'm happy to share some of those ideas with you if you want.
Yes, absolutely. That's my next question, Jean, because, as much as we're talking about you were in franchise working with franchises, like I said earlier, you work with so many, you have attorneys that are clients, mortgage lenders, insurance agent, all sorts.
Horse farmer,
A horse. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Lynn, the horse farmer.
beekeeper.
Amazing.
Yes, she was beekeeper was a client of mine.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was, yeah, I love what I do, and I do have a superpower where I can literally step into the role of their ideal client, and I know what their ideal clients need. I don't know how
So
I know that, but I know it.
So please share away, Jean. Help us to understand some no cost, low cost marketing strategies.
It's my favorite thing to talk about, Christine. So I'm gonna give you 4, okay? Because I believe, like a table, you should have 4 marketing legs to your business, right? It
Mm.
becomes the most stable. You shouldn't have 15, you shouldn't have 37, you should have no more than 4, at the very most 5 marketing strategies you're doing at any given time. So I focused on 4 in that store. And the first one was customer service, right? Not long after I bought that bankrupt business, across the street opened up a Kilwin's chocolate store. So when you walked into their chocolate store, Christine, I'm not kidding, it was a mirror image of mine, and I could see them out my front window. That really ticked me off, right? So there's nothing, what is it? There's nothing like a woman scorned. Is that the saying, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what I made it my mission was to become their worst enemy, but their best friend, right?
Mhm.
So I would go in and I would spy on them all the time. I would send my employees over to buy stuff and spy on them. How many people are in the store? How big is, what's going on in there? What are they making? So keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. That was my practice with that. And they lasted 3 years, the amount of time that they had in their lease, right? And, that was, but the way we did it was with customer service, right? We really elevated our customer service. We had a we don't say no policy. Now, I was the only one who was allowed to say no if it was really outside of our scope, and I rarely said no, I just figured it out. I had somebody come in and want to a fudge mountain. What the heck is a fudge mountain,
Ooh,
right? It's a
yeah.
mountain of fudge, but it had to look like a mountain. So I got really creative in creating amazing fudge mountains with uh, what do you call those evergreen trees? Like Christmas trees, and
Mhm,
skiers and snow on the top. Like I got really, really good at that, right? And fudge was one of our best margins, so it was really, really inexpensive for me to make something like that. But they were little works of art, also.
mhm,
So the second thing we did was I did strategic volunteering, right?
mm,
That was, how do you get in front of more people? Well, how many times, I know you're a big volunteer.
mhm,
So you know that when you're going out there and you're volunteering in the community, right? People
mhm,
love that. And the organizations that you work for love that because nobody volunteers, right?
mhm.
It My sales were 30% higher the year that I decided to volunteer for the business association and go out and sell their summer art project, right?
Mm.
And when I went to business selling these, I of course took samples and coupons and caramel apples, right? So that they could sample. Who's going to say no to me when I walk in with like a little basket of goodies, right? Nobody
Yeah,
said no to me. So,
yeah.
right now, I guess that might be a lesson right there. How to make sure that no one says no to you. Always bring a gift, right?
Mm,
Um, I have a client who was he is a financial planner in the town that my chocolate store was in, and then he has since become a client of mine, but really, a financial planner has a very hard time marketing their business because they have to go through so much compliance, right?
Yeah.
So what we did, he had an opportunity to join a zoo. We have a big zoo out here called the Brookfield Zoo. The Brookfield Zoo's board of directors, right? And it cost him $25,000 to be on the board, right?
Wow.
So why would he do that, right? Why would he spend $25,000 to be on a board of directors, which is going to eat up his time? Because other people had to pay $25,000 to be on the board also, right? So he's actually up leveling the people that he's hanging out with. He's hanging out with these people at black tie galas, right? They're doing good work. They're helping the community, and it puts him in front of other people that make a lot of money that he can maybe possibly manage. So
Oh,
that's
that's a great idea, yeah.
that is
Yeah.
great strategic volunteering.
Mm.
So the third one is sampling. Did you ever go into a chocolate store and get a sample?
Oh, yes.
A time or two? Yeah. So really every time somebody walked in the door, right, we were there with a sample. And listen, if they weren't walking in the door, I was having people stand outside the door because we had a street front that they walked on, right? Up and
Mm,
down the street. And I had them standing outside after hours, right, around dinner time with samples because I had a restaurant on both sides of me. So as
mhm.
the people came out after dinner, they're walking by or they'd walk over if they saw somebody standing out there. Really, it was all about getting people to walk into the store.
But that's great when you're giving chocolate away, or some other food product, but
Yeah.
is there a way for someone to do that that doesn't have a business like I mean, is that possible?
Let me ask you this. Why are you doing this podcast? Right? You're sampling the audience of who you are, right? You
True.
had me on here to sample what I do, right? All of
Mhm,
your guests, when you bring them on, you are focusing on and sampling what they do. So, yeah, there's a lot, right?
mm,
We do that as we educate people.
mhm,
We do that as we are selling to people. We do that as we're helping people, right?
mhm,
Selling is sales is selling.
mhm,
Selling is service, right? So
mhm.
if we focus on service first, the sale's easy,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, sampling is a big piece of my business there, but it's also a big piece now. So when I go out and speak to groups, that's sampling.
Mhm.
When you volunteer, that's sampling.
That's true, yep.
Yeah.
Mhm,
So, and then the last way is I always marketed, right? And I was reading marketing books, and I don't even know why when I had my first baby and I was a stay-at-home mom, right?
mhm,
I always was reading something about business operations and marketing, and I just love marketing because it really is how you help people. You show people how you help them with your marketing,
mhm.
right? And if you're fun at doing it, right? If you make it fun, why wouldn't they come? Right? Why wouldn't they come and buy? So we did things. I'll tell a story. I always my favorite story. We Have you ever been to a Rocky Mountain chocolate factory?
No, I haven't. We don't have them here. Mm,
Okay. So, well, outside of every Rocky Mountain chocolate factory sits this gigantic teddy bear. Teddy bear's name is Truffles. So on February 15th, 2003, it was about 6 months after I bought that first store.
mhm,
Um, it's it's dusk, right? Snow is lightly falling. It was beautiful. The street lights are on. This is a street front property, right? Road, right up and down the road is all street fronts on both sides of businesses. And a white panel van pulls up in front of my store. The door flies open.
mhm.
Out jump two ski masked robbers, right? And they grab my bear off his perch, throw him into the van, and take off, right? Now,
Dear.
I was not there, but how do I know? Because it was in the police report. Now, it may not have been as dramatic as I just made it seem, but when my son was working and he called me and he's like, Mom, somebody just stole truffles. My first thought was, my God, something interesting has happened, right? I shouldn't be mad at him, like, why weren't you watching the bear, right? But I was really excited about the fact that we had an opportunity now to find truffles, right? So I
Mm.
called all of my franchisee friends, and I'm like, I need a picture of truffles. Well, someone sent me a picture, and the next day I had a missing poster made. I parked it outside on the perch where he sat,
Mhm.
and up and down the street, people would walk, stopping to read. It said missing right across the top, and people would stop and read the traumatic story of how Truffles was taken from his loving family, and we can't wait to have him back. Right? So we had the CBS News came out. The CBS, the local affiliate
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
Chicago came out. Chicagoland Television came out, and they both did stories from live inside, and or they interviewed us inside and outside of our store. Now the funny thing is the CBS got there before I did that day, and my son was there. So they interviewed him, 17 years old, right? And this was the story he told them, that he is 100% sure that the Russian mob was involved in the bear napping, right?
Oh, no.
That was my thought, right? Are you kidding me? Right? Are you kidding me? And
Oh, dear.
they did not run that. They did, thank God. Somebody in that truck was on top of that, like, because if there's a Russian mob, Christine, I don't want them
Mm.
knowing about me, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So but it was always having fun with that, right?
Mm.
So Chicagoland Television is just a little cable community television show. What's going on in the Chicagoland area? Well, they ran that story for about 2 weeks, and people would be coming in and asking us if we got our bear back. Right?
Mhm.
They're used to seeing him sit outside. He's not sitting there anymore, and there's a missing poster. So they would come in and ask if we got our bear back.
Mhm.
We did about a year later, but I'd already purchased a new one. By the way, he was so expensive that it was considered felony theft. Now,
Wow.
I am not somebody who's gonna jam up somebody else's stupid teenage boys, right? I had
Mm.
2 stupid teenage boys of my own, and I know what kind of
Th
trouble they.
this is live, Gene. This is gonna be out there. I just wanted to remind you.
Well, they were dumb. I'm sorry. Most boys are dumb at 16, 17, 18 years old, right?
Agree. Yes, I agree.
So so they So I didn't wanna jam some kids up because I got so much publicity from that.
Mm.
It did such a turnaround on my store, right? We started having people come in. Somebody came in and said, "We've seen your commercial. We decided we how long have you been here?" Right? How long have
Mm.
At that point, the store had been there a year, but,
Mhm.
"How long have you been here? And we saw your commercial." I'm like, "Hmm, a
Mm.
commercial. I think I'm gonna run a commercial." So I bought and ran for about a year a TV commercial on cable television, which
Mhm.
brought us all kinds of business, but it would have never I don't know that it would have happened for me if it hadn't sparked the idea
Yeah.
from the thought that I should have stole that bear myself when we moved in, when we first bought that store, right? I should have bought
Uh-huh.
I should have stolen that bear. And we just did all kinds of fun things like that, like promoting that. Um, it led the WGN, right? They played like the Cubs games and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It was on there. It was on the number one radio show in Chicago, right? They did a fun police report on that. So that's exactly how I turned around 2 bankrupt businesses.
So you're able to just take any situation, no matter how bad you might think it is, and really turn it around with I mean, using that imagination of yours. It's so now I want you to just take a moment or two to tell our listeners about you have something called the strategy sphere.
I do.
And what is that and how did that come about?
Well, that came about from March 17th, sorry, March 17th of 2020, when they announced in Illinois that we were going to be locked down. That was the first day of the lockdown.
Mm,
And I knew immediately, listen, I was a small business owner. I have a passion for small business owners to help them make more money because I know 19 out of 20 do not make enough money. So I sent out an email to my list and said, look, I'm going to do 3 2-hour trainings. I'm gonna, for 3 days, I'm gonna do a 2 hour training every day about how to stay in business when you have just been deemed unessential by everybody, including the government. And I had about 40, I don't know, 30 or 40 people show up. And after day two, I decided, wow, there's so many people who really are hungry for this information that I created a group and I called it the Strategy Sphere. And for 2 years, I showed up Monday through Friday every day and gave out a strategy session or a lesson or a teaching or something to help them stay in business, all for free, right? For 2
Mm.
full years, I did that for free to help small business owners.
Wow. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And now you have something coming up next month that if our listeners have just been soaking all this information in and saying, I want more Gene, I need to know more. What do you have coming up next month?
Next month, I have, it's called the Turnaround Conference, right? And it is about turning around your business in a recession. Listen, I know nobody has used the word recession yet. We are in a recession. Nobody wants to say the word recession because of the midterms coming up, right? Doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. Nobody wants to be blamed for the recession, right? But
Mhm,
we're really in a down economy right now, and it's about turning around your business, recession proofing your business before a recession hits you, right? I learned a long time ago. Zig Ziglar taught me this. I thank you for having my website up here. But Zig Ziglar taught me this before, when I was in a room with him and we were in a recession in the 1990s, and Zig said he does not participate in the recession. And I'm like, "What? Who What do you mean?" Because I thought we all had to, right? And I think small business owners feel like they have to, which is why they stop spending money, right? They stop marketing their business, or they think that it has to be very costly to continue marketing their business. But let me tell you, you can do free marketing while in business, whether there's a recession or not. And he also taught me that day, it's the businesses that can stay in business during a recession. On the other end of it, they're the most successful businesses. That
mhm,
day, I decided no longer to participate in a recession. I asked my clients, don't participate in a recession. Let that be for the other people. Let that be for your competition, right? It does not have to be for you.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
that's really what this is about. And we talk a lot about how to generate more leads, how to get more prospects, how to have more people to talk to, that so that you know whether or not they're your ideal client, right? We talk to them about how to have really authentic, easy sales conversations, right? We
mhm,
talk about all the different strategies. You guys, you got to know, marketing is my favorite thing. Do you think I'm going to come to that and not bring fun marketing strategies with it? Absolutely not. We're going to have a ton of marketing in that. I'm going to teach people how to market their businesses for free in a recession, right?
mhm.
And on the other side of a recession, there's no reason to spend tons and tons of money. Now, listen, we all know that you can spend a ton of money on Facebook ads, right? But there's a lot to be said for nose to nose, toes to toes
Yeah.
marketing. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's it, definitely makes a difference. I know I've seen it in my own business, being online versus offline and, just networking and whatnot. So
great.
our listeners can go to turnaroundconference.com and get registered right away, to join you next month.
In person, live.
In person, live outside of Chicago, 3 days, 3 full days with Gene. So if you've really loved what you've been hearing, you've gotta be there next month, at the Turnaround Conference. This
Well, I
has been
can
a
make
great
this
conversation, Gene. I do have one last question for you. Now you have given us so much and explained many situations you've been through over the years and everything. If there was one thing that you can think of that made it click for you in your business, as a strategist, as a business coach, what would that one thing be? Something you learned, something you did? Maybe it's a tech tool, just saying, I don't know. What comes to mind that you'd say, oh my god, that's what made it click for me?
what really made it click for me was 30 some what 30 some years ago? No, probably yeah, maybe 30 some years ago with Zig Ziglar. And he said, "You can have everything you want in life." And at that time, I wanted everything because we were married just a few years and we didn't have a ton of money and I wanted everything, right? And he said, "You can have everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want." And I have literally been living that and practicing that every day since 1990 when I learned it.
Yes, you have,
That made
Jean.
it for me.
Yes, yes, I can definitely
Can I
attest to that.
can I give your people a discount?
Absolutely. Sure.
So, it would be sponsor with a capital S, the rest of the letters are lowercase, 25, all one word, and that'll take $25 off your ticket price to the 3-day turnaround conference.
Okay, so that's sponsor 25, and we hope to
Capital
see
S.
everybody there next month outside of Chicago.
You're
Jean,
gonna be there. You're gonna
yes,
be
yes. Thank you so much for being my guest today on Make It